Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Thorne and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. We have been unshackled from the constraints of our studio and we are here at the Avalon International Airshow. We are stood in front of a Royal New Zealand Air Force Super Hercules. We'd rather have had a RAF aircraft, but as per usual, the Kiwis have one again. I am joined by my co-host, Jake Nelson. Jake, how are you?
Ish, is that what's going on? I thought they'd just done some major redecorating. Well, actually, behind this New Zealand Super Hercules, we've also got the KC-30A RAF tanker.
It is a beaut. It's a big... I don't know if you can see that. It is a beaut. It is a beaut. Right, so we're here at Avalon. Obviously, we've been here for the industry day, so we're recording this on the Thursday.
Yep.
If this goes out, God willing, before the weekend, we hope you have a great time at Avalon. We've already seen F-35, F-35 Lightning, Super Hornets, and every single aircraft going. It's been great fun, but we aren't here just to talk about Avalon. We are here to talk about the news. Jake.
Yes, we are.
What do we have in store first? Because before we use the Avalon International Airshow, we have the very prestigious Hueys. Jake, for those fools that aren't aware of what the Hueys are, tell us a little bit about the Hueys and what we know now.
Yeah, the Hueys are the... we don't have the trophy here at Avalon. No, we neglected to pack it. Our very prestigious award for the most reliable airline. That is, of course, given by a very unscientific process to the airline based loosely on the Bitra data that was the most reliable for the month. Now, for the past 2 months running, so December and January, that award has gone to Virgin Australia for all three measures of reliability: on-time arrivals, on-time departures, and flight completions. That is to say, how many flights were cancelled or not. But this month there has been a surprise twist.
But you're not going to give it to Virgin Australia?
No, I am.
Because that's what?
I am. The surprise twist is that Virgin got it again.
Again?
Yeah.
Why? Why do they deserve that 3 times in a row?
Because they were the most reliable, Adam.
Yeah.
Keep up.
Yeah. So they've also done, so they've done on-time performance.
On-time arrivals, on-time departures, and cancellations. All three measures. Once again, for the third month running, Virgin Australia was the most reliable airline.
We don't have a trophy to give them now.
We don't. We can give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
It's good because we don't need to change the name on the trophy. We can just leave the existing one. So
what are the other ups? So Virgin have won again. Is there any other kind of upshot from the this month's performance data?
Well, we did see that more than 80% of all domestic flights were departing and arriving on time last month, which is good. Still below the long-term averages, but 4 in 5 chance in February that if you got on a plane, it would arrive on time after departing on time. Not bad at all.
Okay.
Cancellations were 2.6%. Now, we are expecting to probably see a little bit of disruption in the data for March because, of course, of things like Tropical Cyclone Alfred. And, various other disruptions that have taken place. Now, according to Virgin, by the way, more than 80% of its cancellations since January, very low number of cancellations they've had for the first few months of the year, but more than 80% of these have been due to factors outside of Virgin's control. Yeah.
How did Qantas do?
So Qantas, going into the number, 81.9% on-time arrivals and 82.7% on-time departures for Virgin Australia network. That's all VA-designated flights, so Virgin Australia and VARA. And for Qantas Link, 81.3% on-time arrivals, 81.2% on-time departures. VA-designated flights, we had 1.5% cancelled, as opposed to QF, 3.6%. Jetstar, we've got a Jetstar plane taking off at the moment from Avalon, an A320 bound for somewhere.
Great link, perfect.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, go on.
No, Link doesn't fly here. That's just Jetstar. Right. Jetstar, 76.1% on-time arrivals, 73.5% on-time departures, 1.6% of flight cancelled. Not bad on the cancellations for Jetstar there. Now, Qantas, for its part, has said that on-time performance hit 2-year highs in February due to what it said were ongoing efforts by the national carrier to improve reliability. Qantas said it has its best month in 3 years, with 82.3% of flights departing on time. Qantas is also looking to expand its group boarding process across all regional, domestic and international flights departing Australia. and it says that since group boarding was introduced in June last year, on some domestic 737 flights, boarding times have been 3 minutes faster on average. Meanwhile, Jetstar, 7th month in the past year where the low-cost carrier had a cancellation rate below 2%. So things are improving.
Things are improving. Well, forget that for a second. As we record this, we didn't even set this up. Our KC-30A,
it's on the move.
Yeah. This is live aviation. This is the bleeding edge of reporting right here. I don't know how it's going to work with our shadow. This is real journalism. You are witnessing here live aviation. We've got a KC-30A from the RAF. It's just moving around us. It's moving around us. Things are kicking off because we are in the middle of an airport. This is real hardcore journalism.
It is.
On that note, what news story are we talking about next, Jake?
Well, we should probably, speaking of disruptions and things like that, we should probably talk about Heathrow.
Yes. Oh, no. Excellent. Great airport. I love it. And another fantastic week for the British.
Yeah.
Go on.
So last week there was a fire at an electrical substation near Heathrow Airport, which basically threw everything into chaos. Heathrow Airport closed for, I think, the better part of 24 hours.
Yes. So effectively, obviously you do have partial shutdowns of airports, rarely. What's extraordinary about this is not just one terminal, the entire airport shut down basically for a day. And obviously that causes chaos in the UK, but it causes chaos globally.
Anarchy in the UK.
Anarchy in the UK, good link.
Thank you.
It does this because obviously Heathrow, apart from itself being a destination, is the biggest hub airport in Europe. And is, of course, one of the biggest hub airports in the world. So if Heathrow goes down, it causes all sorts of chaos. It's hard to know exactly what the effect in Australia is because obviously there aren't many direct flights from Heathrow to Australia, but it essentially caused global carnage for aviation. I heard a report that it was like 300,000 passengers were affected because what happened is the flights that were in midair had to divert. So You think you go to London, you might end up in Paris, air.
Yeah, a couple of Qantas flights were forced to divert to Paris. They were in the air at the time.
Yes.
There was cancellations at Heathrow because there was flights supposed to leave Heathrow, heading back to Australia. So Qantas was thrown for a bit of a loop. Also, according to Sky News in the UK, the Special Air Service had to cancel a few of its commercial flights. I didn't know that the Special Air Services...
No, we've made budget cuts now, so rather than like parachuting down and like taking somebody out like a sniper, they just book economy or something.
Yeah.
And they just turn up and they say, look, please, can you help us? But basically what's been happening back in the UK is obviously it's been an absolute scandal because why should effectively one power station or whatever going down bring down the whole airport? Shouldn't there be backup systems? And what's effectively happened is the airport has blamed the national grid and the national grid has blamed the airport. So what this is essentially is a kind of traditional British farce. No one's taking responsibility. Nobody knows. For the airlines, this is an absolute disaster because they're going to lose an awful lot of money. How do they get compensation from that? So for a major international global hub airport to utterly shut down for a day unexpectedly is almost unprecedented. This is a sort of chaos you last saw at the start of COVID, but a lot worse. Obviously a nightmare for passengers that were stranded there as well, who might have been waiting for connecting flights. It might be difficult to get accommodation, etc. So this story is going to kind of go on and on and on, but essentially a bad day to be British. Let's immediately talk about something
else. And a bad day to be working for Sky News UK, who mistook I believe the Scandinavian Air Systems, SAS, for the Special Air Service. SAS does in fact run commercial flights.
Yeah, look, British journalism isn't very good.
As we can see.
Exactly. Never let the facts get in the way of the good story is what they've seen there. Right, let's stop talking about how rubbish Britain is and let's talk about something else.
Okay, let's talk about how Sydney's airport slots are apparently going to be the most transparent in the world, according to the new slot manager.
Yeah, so you interviewed him, right?
I did. I spoke to Neil Garwood, the CEO of ACL, Airport Coordination Limited. Now, they are the new firm that is being brought in by the government starting from next month to take over the management of the slots at Sydney Airport. Now, the previous outfit, Airport Coordination Australia, ACA, not to be confused with the current affair. ACA, the previous group, they lost their contract. They've been running it for quite some time, and they brought in this foreign outfit, ACL, which does Heathrow is one of them, I think.
Oh, okay.
Slot management at Heathrow. So there you go.
Yeah.
So they're coming in to take over the management of Sydney slots. And there's been a couple of things that they've said. First of all, they've said that there's going to be more transparency in Sydney's slot management. So they're going to have a local website that's going to publish all of the slot information, who's got the slots, how often are they using them, what's the rate of cancellations. Garwood has said this is going to be a level of visibility that was not there before. He said it is no overstatement to say that will place the Sydney slot regime in a position that's more transparent, he believes, than any other airport in the world. Now, he's also, we've heard a lot about Sydney Airport being full. It's full to bursting. There's, it's so much, it's so hard to squeeze new airlines in. He's saying that's not quite true. There is capacity there that can be used. He says there's slots available. Some of those are in the peak. Domestic capacity has not come back to 2019 levels. Slot utilization not as high as they see in other airports. So, for example, in the UK, some of the slot utilization is 90 to 95%. He says he does not think it's that level at Sydney. But he believes that there are opportunities to develop the utilization of the capacity at Sydney Airport. I think that Super Hercules is.
This is more live aviation.
It is.
This is great. Anyway, to give you a bit of background for those that aren't aware, the slot thing became an issue kind of just after COVID, and the accusation against Qantas and Virgin was that they were squatting on slots.
Yeah, slot hoarding was the term.
Yes. So basically, the rule at the moment says that if you use a slot 80% of the time, you can keep it forever, which basically means you could cancel 1 in 5 flights. Now, while you may be able to get a slot as an airline, being able to get a kind of a prime plum time slot is very, very difficult. So the argument was that airlines were basically fiddling it a little bit, taking slots they didn't necessarily need in order to keep them forever. Virgin and Qantas strongly denied this, but one of the issues was that there was not really transparency, and that if a flight was cancelled, an airline didn't necessarily have to say exactly what caused it, and it wasn't necessarily publicly available. So the idea of having this transparency is that if the airlines are guilty, then you'd be able to find out about it. But if they are innocent, as they say they are, then they have that full transparency as well. So being able to sort of publish this data will kind of keep everyone honest. It was quite extraordinary that when he did this interview, he said, we want you to be the most transparent in the world.
Yes.
So it would seem like they are tackling this head on, which is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've said that they're sort of in talks to maybe move into other airports in Australia as well. So we shall see how they do. They do have experience. They've got a portfolio of other airports, and including places like I think Heathrow, Dubai. Yeah. So they do have form. Yeah. And we wish them the best of luck in sorting out the slot situation.
So the British doing something good, basically.
Once in a while,
just to balance it up, 1-1. There you go, a bit more positive news about the motherland. So we spoke there a little bit before about the overhaul, effectively, in Sydney slots, or at least how they are going to be recorded. We've probably got time for a couple more news stories. Jake, what have we got?
Yeah, this is an interesting one out of Newcastle, actually. So, for those who've been following things might be aware that Newcastle Airport, there's been an ongoing stoush. We love a stoush.
Such an Australian word.
It is, and more people should use it. There's been an ongoing stoush between Newcastle Airport and the Newcastle Herald, the local newspaper, who have basically, the Newcastle Herald's been reporting Newcastle Airport's in serious financial trouble. It's not paying it. It's not able to pay its debts. It's loaded down with debt. This whole terminal expansion thing has been a financial disaster, etc., etc. Newcastle Airport has been firing back, saying, you're not getting your facts right. That's not how it is. We are fine. We are fully open and transparent with, everything that we do financially. So this has been going on for a while now, ever since late last year. And the Lord Mayor of Newcastle last week stepped in and basically has called for this independent inquiry. He said that recent media reports have raised important questions about Newcastle Airport's financial status and management that deserve proper scrutiny. He said, when we're seeing reports of planned staff redundancies coming just weeks after public assurances of stability, it raises legitimate concerns that need addressing. The community deserves clarity on the true state of our regional asset. We must ensure that every dollar is accounted for and that the interests of Newcastle and Port Stephens ratepayers are fully protected. Now, the airport has come back, and in a statement they've told us that it would welcome an independent review of our prudent financial plan if our shareholders want that to happen. So the airport operates under ASIC, That's the organisation that oversees it, not the Office of Local Government. They say that they maintain full transparency within their governance structure, shareholders and partnership board, finances are independently audited. They've also noted that local government minister Ron Hoenig has confirmed that with 2 nominated directors, the City of Newcastle already has adequate oversight over the airport corporation and its operations. And the Mayor of Port Stephens has basically come out as well, and she said, from our perspective, everything seems fine. The airport has our full support. So it's something to watch, because Newcastle Airport is looking to open this expanded international terminal this year. They got big plans of attracting new international airlines. So we'll be keeping an eye on this one.
So it's interesting. So basically everybody's doubling down. The airport is basically saying there is no problem. The journalists are saying we're completely correct. And we don't really know how it's going to play out. Okay, I reckon we've got time for one more story before inevitably like a Super Hornet fires a missile and blows us up or something goes wrong. Go on, Jake, one more. What do we got time for?
Well, we've got time for my tablet dying.
It's time. Your tablet's died. This isn't live. It's live aviation. It's not live journalism. Go on then, on top of your head.
Hang on. Let me just see if I can open this back up again.
Now I think we need to move on from that. It's gone now. You're gonna have to maybe throw a question at me.
Well, Adam, what's the most interesting story that you've covered this week?
I'll tell you an interesting story that I've covered. I'm trying to think here. Yes, we've had good. Actually, this is what we should talk about. You're like this. Good news for Boeing, because Boeing have basically been given the main contract to make as they're now going to call it, F-47.
Of course they're calling it that.
Yeah, of course they're calling that. Why are they calling him that, Jake?
Because Trump is the 47th president and they're trying to butter him up.
Yeah, there you go. So essentially you've got
47th president.
Yeah,
he was both.
Yeah. So basically the F-22, which is kind of currently the Raptor, but it's like, at the moment it's America's kind of air superiority fighter jet, which is kind of mumbo-jumbo for this is a thing that secures the skies. Basically, it's in the dogfights, kind of inverted comma. It's there doing kind of air-to-air combat. It's an aging aircraft, so the US has obviously had this tender out for a long time for this kind of next-generation aircraft. They have picked Boeing for this, and they've called it the F-47 after the Don, try and not look so utterly furious. But in a kind of wider context thing, this is a huge boost for Boeing, which obviously last year had a kind of year from how it had the door plug blow off an aircraft midair, and obviously had all the issues with Starliner as well, effectively stranding astronauts on the ISS for 9 months now. So everything's been going bad to worse for Boeing. This is a hugely significant contract. Exactly how much it's going to be worth, we don't exactly know. But obviously we're talking, multi-billions over many, many, many years. This is going to be one of the main new aircraft of the US. So they beat Lockheed Martin in the
Interesting, because I think Lockheed Martin is the one that makes the F-35s.
Yes, exactly. So maybe they had the best pitch. Perhaps this is more of a case of, wanting to divvy up these big contracts. But nonetheless, it feels like a turning point for Boeing after so many bad things have happened.
And I think I saw a headline as well saying that NASA is considering another Starliner flight up to the ISS.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously the Starliner had problem with its thrusters, which meant that they took these astronauts to the ISS, as you probably all know, but didn't take them back. It kind of returned uncrewed. So there's been almost nothing from either NASA or Boeing on what the long-term future Starliner is. But what they've actually come out now and kind of confirmed that they are looking to do more flights. So what they're ideally wanting to do is one more test flight, maybe with or without astronauts, and once that's succeeded, they will then make this a regular kind of shuttle to the ISS. So if they're able to get that working, that's going to be a huge boom for Boeing. They fired the head of Boeing's Defence and Space Division, I think it was halfway through last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it would look like if they could get those Starliner flights regularly, that's a huge turnaround. They've now got a big contract for a new fighter jet. That's turning around. So, the problem with Boeing, it's such an enormous organisation. It's like, that's saying, it's like turning around an oil tanker. But it does at least seem to be green shoots now. After, I say they had a bad year last year, they've obviously had 10 years where things seem to be going progressively worse for them. So it feels like a huge turning point for Boeing. Right, I think that's about it, I think. We got anything more you want to add to this?
Oh, well, it's, seeing as we're at this air show, Adam, what's the best thing that you've seen so far?
What's the best thing I've seen? So where they do a show, and then they did a similar thing last time at Avalon, where the F-35 kind of goes up as all the explosions happen.
Yeah.
And the whole Avalon site shakes.
Yeah.
Then our salesperson, every single time, that is, my highlight was watching him in distress as the F-35 went up. A beautiful moment where this beautiful aircraft has like almost physically hurt Ben. We love that. That's my highlight. What's yours?
Look, the C-17 Globemaster has been absolutely astonishing. That just a gigantic, a monster of a thing, heading down Avalon's runway, flying around overhead and coming back and reversing.
Yes.
Yeah, reversing down the runway. It's only had the warning like the beep beep, like a truck backing up.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
So that's your big thing. You loved it. A great piece of military equipment, but you want it to make a beep beep sound as it goes backwards.
Well, yeah, of course. Have the guy, hanging out the cockpit, trying to see where he's going.
Or maybe someone like waving him down, like a bit further.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Right, well, on that...
Well, I mean, we've been driving something almost as big as a C-17 Globemaster to and from Avalon.
Yeah, I tell you what the low light was. We shouldn't really say this, given the bosses are probably listening. We lost the car in Avalon car park, and it's a hard thing to lose because it's basically a truck.
It's a Ford Everest.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people kind of like stumble across where the thing's parked. It took us a good half an hour to find it, and we're just like walking up and down this dusty car park. I'm getting more and more angry. Andy, one of our sales guys, he wasn't happy. You were panicking. Ben,
I was not panicking.
You were panicking.
I
You
was
got
not
very
panicking.
angry. It looked really unprofessional on all of us. We look like idiots, basically. Nobody made a note of nobody made a note. In the end, Rob from our sister publication, Sister Brands Defence Connect, he went up, spoke to one of the stewards there and managed to piece it together. But I would say not our finest hour.
No, definitely not our finest hour.
No.
And another low light is Melbourne needs to make its highway slip roads more obvious and needs to stop people from crashing into trams.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's probably a bit too much information. On that note, we will wrap things up.
This is not Australian Melbourne navigation, is it?
No, it's not. Right, Jake, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much for listening and watching. We will be back maybe at some point later this week, next week, I don't know, but we will be back
Definitely
soon.
not from the same place.
No, we'll be back in the studio. But from now, for me and Jake, goodbye.
Goodbye.